everyone. Thank you so much for being here today another week. My name is Amaia Perez. I'm the online programming director of RFR, and I'm here with Eric Wells, who is my co-host today and also the RFR support group director. So thank you so much, Eric, for being here another week.
Thank you, Amaia. Thank you so much. Well, folks, like every RfRx, we have got a poll at the very beginning, and it these questions that we have are set up to kind of get you into the mood, get you into thinking about what we're going to be discussing today. So we've got 4 questions, and I'm going to go ahead and read them off to you. Do you struggle with negative body imagery? Yes, no, or I'm not sure. Does the media affect your view on body positivity? Yes, no, or I'm not sure. Does your body image impact your mental health? Yes, no, or I'm not sure. And the final question is, did you ever receive negative messages about your body while in religion? Yes, no, I'm not sure, or not applicable. These questions are anonymous. We won't be able to see how any particular individual answers them, so feel free to answer them honestly. We also would like to give a shout out, this next thing on here, the shout out to the atheist community of Discord. It's a great community of folks. They are streaming this discussion live to their Discord channel. If you're looking for a community to hang out with and chat with and make some new contacts, make some new friends of like-minded folks, check them out. Head on over to the ACA Discord link, and we'll go ahead and put this into the chat. But like every single week, Amaia, what the heck is RfRx?
Yes, so for those of you who are new here, RfRx is basically a series of online weekly sessions where we bring in different guests to discuss about topics that are relevant to anyone who is either living religion or has left religion completely. This is just a good way of providing advice and coping skills to anyone who needs them right now. And if you want to see any sort of, provide us with any sort of feedback or any guest ideas or topics ideas or anything at all, you can send us an email to rfrx@recoveringfromreligion.org. And you can also see any of our previous RfRx sessions in our YouTube channel, and that is youtube.com/recoveringfromreligion. So Narek, over to you to explain RFR in general, because obviously RFRX is a charity within the organization Recovering from Religion. So I'll let you do that bit.
Oh, you bet. Yes. So RFR, Recovering from Religion, you're going to hear RFR quite a bit. But many of you know what RFR is, and I've got kind of a cool thing to announce today, that April 26th is Recovering from Religion's 12th birthday. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, RFR is not quite a teenager yet. It's almost there, but it's 12 years old. One of the things we're doing is, if you have had some great positive experiences with Recovering from Religion, either using their services or volunteering on the helpline or in any type of facility, we would love to kind of hear how it's affected your life. So if you have the time, we'd love for you to submit to us a 15 to 30-second video talking about how RFR has affected you. And you can go ahead and send it to the email address that we provided above. But let's talk about the nuts and bolts of RFR. We're here to offer hope, healing, and support to those struggling with issues of doubt and non-belief. So Amaia, you want to take a minute and talk to us about how we offer healing to our clients?
Yes, so the first thing that we offer, as you said, is healing. And the way that we do this is via our helpline. And you can access our helpline in 2 different ways. You can either call our helpline agents or you can chat with them. So if you go to our website, like in the first front page, you will find the phone number. And if you go to down, and I believe it's to the left, there will be like a small green button. And that's where you can click and go to chat with one of our helpline agents. So what they will offer is an empathetic ear and no judgment or criticism to any issues that you may have which are related to religion. So if you feel like you could use just someone that is like an objective sort of reflection, or someone that listens to you, then I highly suggest you contact one of our helpline agents. They are definitely trained so wonderfully by our volunteers in order to help you. So it's just a great resource to use if this is something that you feel like would be beneficial for you. And then the other way that we offer healing is via our resource page. We have collected a very large number of resources, and these include podcasts, videos, books, I believe, I don't know, maybe audiobooks also, just anything you can imagine, you will find it in our resource page, and we have divided it in different topics. So if you are looking for specific resources about certain topics, such as like accepting your sexuality or fear of hell or any topic that you can think of related to religion, we will probably have a resource for you. So if you feel like instead of talking to a person, you could just use maybe reading a book or watching a video, then that is the resource for you. I think a resource page would be really, really helpful. So that is healing. And then Eric, why don't you explain hope and support?
You bet. So hope, a lot of hope can come from the sharing and listening to personal stories. You know, if I am struggling with something and I see that someone else is kind of, or read about someone else's struggling with something similar, I can kind of get some hope from that. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. They tell me like, look, I got through it and I was okay. Yes, it was rough. Yes, I can totally understand what you went through and are going through, but I got out of it on the other side. That could provide some hope. And we share these stories and provide the capability for people to kind of read and go through them with our blog and our podcast. And our blog is excommunications over at medium.com. And you can take a look at the link for the podcast. Now, moving on to support. This is my favorite part of RfRx, but I'm not biased or anything, being the support group director. The support groups, this is awesome. This is where you have the in-person meetings. This is kind of where I think a lot of the healing and the long-term work can go in, is finding a support group near you, or even a virtual support group where most of them are being held over, no, all of them right now are being held over Zoom. But you find a support group, and we've got over 60 of them around the world now. So there's bound to be something to work inside of your schedule. And you're face to face with other folks who are struggling with similar issues, going through the same thing. And we get to share, and it's a safe space that support group leaders provide, where we can talk about our trauma, our struggles, and our doubts. In addition to that, so Amaia talked about the helpline, and I just kind of talked about the support groups, and that's peer support. These are just not professionally trained people, just friends and people wanting to help one another out, not giving advice or diagnosing anything, any medical conditions. But oftentimes we may need something more than just what peer support can offer. And so Recovering from Religion has set up the Secular Therapy Project. And this is where you can get in contact with a secular therapist near you who can probably help you work through some of these more urgent and deeper and issues that you've got. These therapists are vetted to make sure that they have the appropriate licensing in their state or country, to make sure that they are maintaining a secular practice, so you won't run the risk of getting proselytized to. In addition to this, they're screened and vetted to make sure that they use evidence-based treatments. So when you find a therapist on seculartherapy.org, you can be assured that it's safe for you. Amaia, what else you want to talk about?
So the only last two things to discuss before we go to the RfRx session is, first of all, the online community. So the online community is basically an online platform that RfR is hosting, where you can chat with and meet people that share similar backgrounds as you. And we have created different groups within this online community. So you can go to the group that you feel like could help you best. So we have a group for the LGBTQ+ community. We have a group for Black non-believers. We have a group for Australians, for families, for just all sorts of different demographics and topics that you can imagine. Also one for addiction. So yeah, we have all sorts of different groups, and also groups targeted to specific religions. So if you feel like this is something that you could use, so instead of someone like a helpline agent, which is more of an objective sort of agent that is just listening to your struggles, or if you feel like you need something different from therapy, this may be something that could be of use to you, because I feel like you can really understand how you are not alone in this, and there's so many people that are struggling with the same issues as you, and especially with very, very similar backgrounds. So yeah, if you want to join one of our online community groups, all you need to do is go to our helpline agents, just contact them again via either calling or by chat, and they will let you know what you need to do in order to join one of these groups. And apart from the online community groups, a few of them also hold Sunday night Zoom meetings. So that could also be quite a positive interaction that you could get out of the online community. And then the other thing I wanted to discuss was volunteering, because Recovering from Religion is exclusively run by volunteers. This, of course, includes our speakers. So everyone that you have ever seen here, they are doing it for free. All of them are doing it just because they believe in RFR. So if you believe in our purpose and in what we do here, I do highly encourage you to join us as a volunteer, because we have so many different roles that you could join. We would love to have you here. You could be a helpline agent, you could be a support group director, you could be a web developer, you could be so many different things. I'm sure we will find the perfect role for you, or a role that best suits your skills and your interests. So yeah, if you want to join us, all you need to do is go to our volunteering page, which let me post that in the chat. And if you're watching this on YouTube, every single link that we mention in the session will be in the description down below. Okay, now that said, Eric, do you want to do the honors and explain the meeting formats and then introduce our amazing guests?
Heck yes. Folks, we're almost done. You don't have to hear much more of Amaia and I, but let me talk about how the meeting's going to go. It's the same as every time. We're going to have a discussion for about an hour with our fantastic guests. Then after that, or during the discussion, you're probably going to have some questions. So if you do, please type them into the chat, or PM them to, or message them to either Amaia or myself. We'll collect these questions, and then during the second half of the discussion, we will have a Q&A where we'll ask the guest those very important questions. And I think you can hear my dog in the background. Anyways, after the Q&A session, we're going to hear from our fantastic president and founder, Dr. Dale Ray. And then once he's done yammering about whatever he's going to yammer about, we will have a hangout. We're going to shut off the recording. We're going to open up the lines and allow you folks to kind of talk with the guests if they're able to stick around and ask some further questions and just have a open discussion. It's this social hangout, this hangout time is just fantastic, and I strongly urge you and would encourage you to stick around for it and kind of experience what that's all about, because it's got a different feel than just this discussion with the guests and the host. Oh, so without further ado, allow me to introduce our two guests. Amaia, why don't you take Praia, and I'll kind of yammer on about Mandisa. Mandisa?
Sure. Oh yeah, sorry. Sorry, Eric. You wanted me to take over first. Go for it.
All right. Mandisa is the founder and president of Black Nonbelievers, and she currently serves on the board of for the American Atheists and for the American Humanist Association. She also facilitates and is a support group leader for the Morrow, Georgia chapter of RFR, like the support groups that I was talking to you about earlier. She has numerous media appearances to her credit, and she's the recipient of the 2020 Harvard Humanist of the Year Award, an award that couldn't have gone to a better person. She's also received the 2019 Backbone Award from the Secular Student Alliance and the Freethought Heroine Award from the Freedom from Religion Foundation. She was, in 2018, she was the Humanist Association's Person of the Year. All right, that's Mandisa. Now tell us about Praia.
Yeah, so Praia Westerband-Otero is a licensed mental health counselor and substance use counselor. She's in the process of becoming an AASECT, certified sex therapist, and is currently a clinical sexology PhD student. She specializes in individual relationship, alcohol, substance abuse, counseling, and sex therapy with an emphasis on alternative relationships. So without further ado, the floor is yours, guys. Thank you so much for coming here today. And yeah, I'm just super, super grateful that you're taking the time once again to discuss this really important topic.
Yes, thank you very much for having us. I'm excited and glad to be joining Praia for this topic.
So the talk today, we're going to be focusing on kind of like body positivity and like the opposite of which we so much hear is body like negativity. And that's something that I think most of us struggle with. I know that I do, even as a guy, it's something that I struggle with. Like I even shame myself into thinking, but Can you guys kind of help us? Where would we start with this, this whole kind of discussion?
So Mandisa, do you want to jump in, or shall I give a little bit?
Sure. If you want to give it a start, I will jump in. This is just going to be a real discussion, folks. You know, I will definitely be doing more of, I won't say anecdotal, but I will be speaking from like a peer support and also experiences that I go through that I know others would go through as well. And Praia is definitely going to give us more of, the clinical side, some things that can be definitely helpful as far as resources and what definitions are. And so we're going to kind of work through this here. It's going to be great. So yeah, Praia, please, if you want to take it away.
Right. So first off, just the topic of body positivity is a complex topic. There is just like, the more research you do into it, you realize that there's no like one cross the board way that people even like define what it is. There's no cross the board way that people, say, oh, this is how you achieve body positivity. It's just going to look different for every single person. So today we're going to do our best to kind of unpack a little bit of what does it really mean to have a positive body image? What does it mean to have a negative body image? We're going to talk about how it may look different depending on different groups of people that you may belong to. So we want to make sure that we address the intersectionality that is involved with just being a human. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the really problematic slogans that are included in the current body positivity movement, such as, all bodies are good bodies, or one of the ones that really kind of gets me all, the real women have curves type of, slogans, and how we're going to kind of unpack a little bit of why we may want to really adjust the way we talk about having a body. So we're going to do our best to kind of like unpack a little bit specific groups. So we're going to talk a little bit about cisgender women, cisgender men, the LGBTQIA plus population, people of color, and people that are differently abled. So we're going to do a little bit of that. We're going to try to get as much, there's a lot of information. First off, what is body image? We're going to start there. We're going to kind of continue unpacking. So according to the National Eating Disorders Association, body image is how you see yourself when you look in the mirror or when you picture yourself in your mind. So that could encompass a variety of things. It can be all about what you believe about your appearance. It could be about how you feel about your body, which could be your height, your shape, your weight. It could be how you sense and control your body as you move, how you physically experience being in your body. So as you can tell already, there is a lot involved in this topic. So it's not just what you see in the mirror. So we're going to kind of like address what it means to have a positive body image, what that may look like. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what it may look like to have a negative body image. So when you have a positive body image, and again, this is not the singular way that someone can have a positive body image. These are examples. So maybe your version of a positive body image may look slightly different, but here's a couple of examples. So it could be accepting and appreciating the whole of one's body, including how it looks and what it can do. Having a broader concept of beauty, that's for me ginormous. Having a body image that is stable. So no matter what is going on or what you see around you, your body image and your vision of how you see yourself is maintained. And having an inner positivity. So this is one of the big recommendations that we do, which is instead of focusing so much on the outside, do the internal work of like, I'm positive with just myself and my identity as a person, not only the physical attributes that I have. So now let's look at the other side, the negative body image. So oftentimes what we see here is people compare themselves with others. And usually when we compare ourselves with others, inevitably we feel inadequate. It's pretty rare, at least I know in my experience, that when I compare myself to others, I'm usually not there like, ha, 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 I'm amazing. Usually I'm beating myself up because I'm not living up to some sort of standard that I've stated I must live up to. We feel ashamed, we feel embarrassed. Oftentimes we can lack confidence. We'll feel uncomfortable or awkward in our own bodies, or we may see parts of our body in a distorted way. So that can sometimes look like body dysmorphia, and we can get into that a little bit later on as well. So, as I said before, it's really hard to define what it really means to be body positive, and what it looks like for everyone is going to look a little bit different. I've heard some people say that the only way to be body positive is to completely and utterly accept your body just the way it is. Don't change a damn thing about it. It's just perfect just the way you are. Other people believe it's about striving for like the best possible version of your body. That in itself, it's for many people really confusing. They don't know what that even means. Does that mean does it mean losing weight, not losing weight? Like, people are kind of confused about what that means by itself. And then in some cases, honestly, it's diet culture that's being marketed as body positivity. But once you kind of get into what they're really saying, they're still like promoting this ideal body type as like a thin, pretty body type. So they're saying, oh yeah, we're body positive. But if you look at all the models they use in their campaign, they all look the same. And you're like, something's not matching here.
It kind of feels like body positivity is always like this carrot that's hung on a stick right out of reach. And it's something that I could never, ever reach. And so it's almost like, why bother? And I'm more comfortable staying negative and like hating myself than trying to spend all this effort making myself trying to feel better about it.
You're not alone.
If I may jump in for a moment, that many of us don't realize that we get our, whether our positive images or negative images, from the communities and the people around us. You know, how oftentimes have you heard maybe a parent or maybe an aunt or maybe a cousin to say, oh, you're fat, or you're too skinny, or you're too this, or you're too that. And in our formative years, when we are younger, we internalize that. You know, how our, you know, and in addition to what we see in the media, that's why there was a question about, does the media impact how you feel about your body? Because when we take in those quote unquote societal norms and standards about what it means to have the perfect body, and then to also engage with our families and our communities, and sometimes the not so kind things that are said to us, or that we may say to each other, whether they're in jest or whether they may be serious, those can have huge impacts on us. So it isn't just what we develop within ourselves, it does come from what is around us. And whether we are subconsciously or consciously taking it in, it really, really does have an impact on how we feel about ourselves.
So before we jump into like the specific groups that we're going to address, in general, I just want to make sure that we're very clear. Okay, so the body positivity movement as it stands right now can be pretty problematic. So the reasons that we decided that we wanted to do this talk is to just really put it out there. What are the issues? What are our concerns? And what are maybe some ways to kind of address those concerns? Because right now, as it stands, the body positivity movement itself can often reinforce a lot of the same transphobic, homophobic, ableist, racist, sexist, classist, healthist, and sizist messages that we receive on a daily basis. So we're essentially trying to find a place where we can get away from these messages, and then the place that we go are transmitting those same messages. So for that reason, we decided to have this talk and really discuss what is going on when it comes to body positivity, and making sure that it becomes something that's realistic and feasible. Because like, as you said, for a lot of people, it just seems impossible. The more they think about it, the more they think that it's just not something that I could ever achieve. Well, let's talk about these subgroups a little bit. So the first group, so in general, if you look up the topic of body image, body positivity, overwhelmingly, you're going to see women as the topic. Like a lot of the writings, a lot of the articles that you're going to see are going to be geared more towards cisgender women. Historically speaking, the body positive movement has been really focused on white women. Thin, able-bodied white women have been mostly the voices of this movement, which is interesting because they did not develop this movement. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So the first group I really wanted to make sure that got attention in this talk was men, cisgender men. And so in this group, I'm going to include cisgender men in total, gay, straight, bi, pan. We're all just talking about men. So for many, many years, eating disorders and this topic was considered a thing for women. So there's a lot of shame that's associated with body image when it comes to men. So they generally have more difficulty seeking treatment for eating disorders, whereas women may be more likely to seek treatment. In a 2007 Columbia University study, gay and bisexual men are at higher risk for developing eating disorders. In comparison to heterosexual men, recent research shows that men constitute 25% of people who suffer from anorexia, and bulimia, 40% of those have a binge eating disorder. So the numbers are pretty startling, and it's just not talked about. It's really not talked about.
Yeah, I've never heard these numbers before.
It's just...
It seems hidden almost, yeah.
Oh, and so there's an interesting paradox when it comes to men and body image as well. You see the men's health magazines where you have these chiseled bodies, you have these six packs that are supposed to be an ideal for most men, but also at the same time, it has also been more acceptable for men to have a more fuller size rather than women, and there are certain cultures, I can say that in African culture, to have a either portly or stout man is a symbol of power and respect, and in a lot of cases, I mean, I know for many of us, I find a big man, I can find a big man very sexy, and also women as well, but in addition to that, that perfect idea of what it means to have that very chiseled, like almost bodybuilding type of shape for a man, with all the muscles glistening and such at the same time, for men, it's almost deemed to be appropriate at times for them to be what is considered out of shape, which doesn't necessarily mean they're out of shape. There is just still this this interesting paradox of men and body image, and it can produce those high numbers of disorders that Praia mentioned, and it could also go unnoticed and by a lot of men and undiagnosed, because on the one hand it's very polarizing, but on the other hand it can be okay, which makes it very difficult to really dissect what those issues are.
So I'm noticing in the chat they're mentioning dad bods, and I don't know if, like, I love a good dad bod.
Right.
I don't like the name. I feel like the
Right.
name probably could use a little bit of adjustment. I don't know. But okay, there's another issue which I found really interesting, which is what happens to men that get the message that I need to be fit, I need to have a six-pack, I need to have these big rippling muscles and do this whole thing, and they end up getting what has been labeled bigorexia. So it's a type of body dysmorphia. So it's like more of a muscle dysmorphia where they constantly view their bodies as too skinny, not enough muscle, too lean, and they're constantly trying to just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And yeah, it leads to some pretty serious health concerns because, the body can't take that much, generally speaking. So eventually they end up pretty sick or just really depressed or suffering from a lot of mental health issues. And when it comes to the dad bod, I feel like it's getting a little love. I have seen it's getting a little love. Like some people are out there talking about, dad bods are hot. But like in media, how often is someone with a dad bod portrayed as like the hot leading man of a movie? Like usually he can be the leading man, but he's not portrayed as like hot and appealing. He's more like the funny, cuddly, kind of entertaining, sweet guy. I don't know. Like, in the chat, if y'all can like recommend some like dad bods that are like, So I would love to see them, but I just wish in media we had more confident, sexy dudes that had the dad bod. But I will do like a little mini shout out to like Rihanna's Fenty underwear line, because she's putting diverse body types in there, just saying, and probably we benefit from like a little bit more of that. Just saying, throwing that out there. All right, so next group, LGBTQIA plus population. All right, so another group that I found really interestingly doesn't have a lot of resources out there. I don't know why, but more in like I spent a lot of time really looking for resources specifically for the trans and non-binary communities. For them in particular, the body image slogans can be really exclusionary and just really not helpful. So, for example, all bodies are perfect is a pretty common slogan in the body positive movement for someone who suffers from body dysmorphia or gender dysmorphia. That statement just doesn't it doesn't match like how it like the entire concept that like my body is perfect the way it is, but this is not the body that I want. Like this is not my body, this is not what I'm supposed to have. So already that phrase is incredibly troubling. So in the case of the trans or non-binary community, there's a couple of like strategies. So you can get things like it's about getting tools that are more gender affirming to increase some body euphoria instead of dysphoria. So you can get chest binders, maybe some packers. You can utilize makeup, clothing options, using particular shoes, anything that resonates with your actual gender. But these topics are just really not talked about. I don't know why. Just another gigantic area that's just not addressed, and it's just not included.
So these are methods for people to sort of shape their bodies as to like how the gender norm defines them. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Let me rephrase that for me a little bit.
Like you were talking about binders. Is that for the chest?
Yes.
So maybe trans men would be using binders to make their chest flatter. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. So like, let's say I was assigned female at birth. So I have breasts, but breasts they do not align with my gender identity. So I might get a binder to flatten them. And that way, when I get dressed, now what I'm seeing in the mirror aligns with my gender identity. So that by itself can really improve just how I feel. It can alleviate some of that body dysmorphia. It may not be a long-term solution for many people. For some people it is. Everyone's process is a little bit different, and there's no one way to do this. So for some people, something like that can be really, really helpful.
I'm a cisgender, a cis man, and I don't know much about this world, but I have a trans friend who likes to wear a strap-on around, just walking around and kind of wear a strap-on. I would imagine, is that something similar too?
Is it really a strap-on? There's something called a packer.
Okay.
So it's like a prosthetic.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's it then. Yeah. Okay. So it's a packer.
So it's just, they have all kinds. They have all kinds of styles. You can kind of customize it a little bit. So yeah, so that is also something that someone could do that could help them feel more aligned with their gender. There's all kinds of ways, like not everybody, and honestly, a lot of times, unfortunately, they can be rather pricey. So not everyone may even have access to those types of really helpful tools. But if they do have access to them, well, then it would be a really big recommendation.
Do we have any statistics on this? Like, have there been any studies on this population of people?
If there have been, I wasn't able to run into any of them. I'd love to see some of them because I'd be really interested to see all kinds of studies on this group, like specifically, geez, like how many people of the trans experience, report having a negative body image because of what they see in the media. Like I remember reading all kinds of articles of people that they assumed that their struggles with themselves was because they had poor self-esteem, and no, it was because they were trans and were just struggling to figure out how they can be body positive in a world that's just not designed for them to be body positive in.
It feels like they may get this body negativity or this message from several different parts of society, both from the media, but then also the people around them who are still treating them as the gender they don't feel like they are. So it seems like there's like multiple factors that may contribute to some of this this view of a negative body outlook.
That definitely goes back to what I said about the communities around us, the people around us, and how they may contribute to either a positive or negative body image. And these are things that we need to take into consideration here. There are things that people may wear to try to enhance their body positive image. And that made me think of how like lingerie or even like intimate clothing can play a part in that, because let's say like for women, there's certain, the sexy lingerie, but there are trans people that may like to wear that stuff too. And that is okay. Oftentimes they are when we talk about gender norms or what is supposed to be for one particular gender, and that isn't always the case. So rethinking what it means for like underwear or bras or something like that are just quote unquote supposed to be for women, and that doesn't always have to be the case. So rethinking that part, like the clothing, what we wear, what other people wear as well, can make a huge difference in that.
Being a person of color.
Woo!
Topic. Okay. So, as I super briefly sprinkled into the conversation earlier, body positivity actually is a movement that started, I think it was like in 1996, but it really, really, really originates in the 60s with the fat acceptance movement, which was started by Black women and femmes. Yet, the overwhelming amount of body positive tags, I don't know if you go on Instagram, you just do like hashtag body positive. You're not going to see many people of color, which is an interesting thing that happens. We are generally not included in the promos and the ads. And if we are, it's like one person. And generally speaking, they will probably be light-skinned, because there is a lot of colorism that is still very much a part of the campaigns. There's a lot of texturism that is still part of the campaigns. So oftentimes you may have like that one person there to essentially fill up that lovely quota. Like, look, we had a person of color, and then they're good to go, and they feel nice. But in reality, a lot of us don't see ourselves in media, and we're not seeing that we are also valued and beautiful, and we're like being appreciated. And if we are, sometimes it's going into the like super really negative world of being basically fetishized, which is a whole nother conversation by itself. But like, whew. So be mindful of the standards of beauty that are marketed as ideal. Why are they ideal? Where that's coming from?
Yes, Praia, if I may jump in here, one of the aspects of my childhood that I can appreciate very much is my introduction to Essence magazine, which was started by Susan Taylor. I think it starts back in the 1970s, and it was sort of a counter to the Ebony magazine, which was started by the Johnson family, which showed many of your standard sort of Eurocentric images of Black folks. They had like the straightened hair, they had, there were some dark skinned models, but most of them were light skinned, or what was considered to be the ideal image for Black people. And this does go back to slavery, and people need to understand how important that is, the issues of colorism within the Black community. But Essence magazine featured very dark-skinned models. Some of them were more full-figured, and it still is a magazine that focuses on the Black community. And I'm very, very glad to have had that upbringing. It also talked about women's health, and also the health issues that face the Black community, which was often, like Praia said, often ignored in mainstream health and media. And so from within the Black community, there were efforts to make sure that our voices were heard and our images were prioritized. And this is something that I think that folks in this community can benefit from learning from. So Amaia, if you could put up those slides that I sent you about an experience I had at the 2018 American Atheists Convention. Those of you who have met me in person, or you know me, you know that I am a more full-figured woman. I started developing breasts when I was 12 years old. And so through my own journey of being more body positive, I wore this specially made dress on stage at the American Atheists Convention doing my presentation because, I wanted to look fierce for it. I was opening for Hugh Laurie, the actor who played Dr. House. And so, but also to represent my organization and also just me and how I am. And so if you look at the screen here to the right of that picture, those are some of the comments that I received from some of the attendees that were who were at the convention. As you can see at the top, it was one gentleman who said that he wondered why it was necessary for me to go on stage without underwear and to wear such a short dress, and tried to bring his son into it, the whole family values thing. And also someone else who just said that it was inappropriate for me to wear that dress. And so sometimes for Black women to be in predominantly white spaces and to be ourselves is to be body shamed. It is to be perceived as not being respectable, because how dare we enter this space and be ourselves. And if you could flip it to the next slide of my response to the second comment there, I really, really wanted to bring it home that most of the feedback, not just from my dress, but from the talk, was positive, because people took away more of the words than they took away more from what I said than what I wore. And yes, we did get a lot. I got a lot of people asking me, how could I get that dress? Because, and for me to be able to express myself, it really has given more confidence for other full-figure women who may not have had, or who are still struggling with maintaining a more positive body image. Because I know for myself, when I see bigger, more full-figured, fierce, beautiful, especially Black women express themselves, it gives me pride in myself. And this is important because all it takes is for us to see others being ourselves and being unapologetic, especially in a movement where we are supposed to be undoing those very, very harmful ideals about ourselves and what we have learned or what we have been indoctrinated in. So I ended it with, I said, have a good day and stay mad about how I was dressed. Because again, I'm not here I wasn't there to, I mean, of course, I always want to make sure I wow my audience and whoever's listening to me. However, if you felt insulted by what I wore on that stage, that is not on me, that is on you. So this is just an example of what I have gone through in this movement and how people are still holding on to perhaps maybe negative bodily images of themselves, but certainly holding on to what they may see about other people. And so I really just wanted to share that because these are microaggressions that women of color do go through and experience in this movement. So I just thought this was a really, really good opportunity for us for me to express that here.
I'm really glad that you shared that. I mean, I saw that first picture. I'm like, oh my God, she is gorgeous up there. She's just the poise, the confidence, just like you were killing it up there. And then to see people just have those horrible things to say, and then your response was amazing. I loved it. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Before we kind of move on to the next category, what are some of the things we can do to uplift some of these fantastic people of color who are doing body positivity things?
By giving them the space to speak. I think oftentimes we just take up space in areas that don't need us to take up space. So instead of maybe instead of volunteering to do a talk in a particular space that I know someone else may be a better match, why not uplift their voice instead of mine?
I remember I follow a couple of body positive activists, and there is this woman who is Asian, and she always talks about how when she's invited to events regarding body positivity, she's often the only person that's not white in the whole, like a 20 team people where 10 of them are speakers, and she's the only person that's not white. And it always amazes me because it's not like there aren't like people on social media doing the work, is that they're not given the space, as you said, to quote unquote preach, their activism, which is a real shame.
It is. Things are slowly kind of moving. It's slowly. So, for example, before we wrap up on this particular topic, move to the next group, I found a really great quote that kind of sums up a little bit of what we're talking about from Sharonda Brown from the Body Positivity in Color campaign. So what she wrote was, having non-normative bodies puts us at greater risk for socially sanctioned abuse, state violence, hate crimes, and wrongful death. It's about so much more than just low self-esteem or shame, but these are the dominant themes we see present in mainstream body positive media. So for those of us that are not the norm, it's more than just, oh, I don't like how I look today. Like, that's usually what you're going to see things kind of like boil down to in a lot of these like body positive things that you, especially like on Instagram. I don't know, Instagram's a weird place. Some of the messages on there just really, really not great.
Yeah, they're really, yes, they're very disturbing. Absolutely.
Yeah. So they like to boil it down to really simplistic terms of just love your body, as if we can just like blah, blah, and just do it from one day to the next. So easy peasy, just like that. But for those of us that are non-normative, those of us that are just in different bodies, it's so much more than that. For some of us, it is literally a life and death issue. For the trans community, it can be a life or death issue, whether or not they fit some norm physically, externally, that matches what people think they should look like. So this is more than just, oh, I'm wearing a color that's not flattering on me and I have low self-esteem. It's not about that. It's a much deeper issue. We have to really address these core beliefs that are at the center of all this. So the next group is a group that also needs way much more love, way much more attention, which is the differently abled community. So, okay. So in general, the body positivity movement is super ableist. If you look at pictures in the ad campaigns, who was it? Was it Dove? I don't know. Anytime you see these like campaigns, they're always like, we're beautiful, we're gorgeous, da da da. Everybody there is able presenting. You can't do, just from visually, you can't visually look at somebody and be like, oh, this person is not differently abled or this person is. There are some disabilities that are invisible. We cannot see them just like that. But at least everyone in the ad campaigns visually appears able-bodied. They're generally all cis women, maybe one or two people of color, maybe not. 0 people in wheelchairs, 0 people with any sort of devices that would be like, yes, this person is differently abled and they are gorgeous. Yes. None of that happens. None of that. So it's really hard to find any examples of it that weren't created by people that are differently able themselves. They basically have started their own campaigns. So that's why little by little we're seeing some movement in that direction. But generally speaking, it's not happening. One of the big names in this movement is called the Health at Every Size movement. So they're very much trying to tell people that you can be healthy regardless of your size. So there is actually a lot of studies going around. They're saying that, like just because you are a couple of pounds, maybe over it, which don't even get me started on the racist ass BMI and like all that problematicness that's going on with that. But just because I'm a couple of pounds over what is considered healthy for my height doesn't automatically mean that I'm unhealthy. Lots of people can be a little chunky, a little curvy, a little whatever you want to, whatever name. I like curvy. I don't know. That's the term I like using. And it doesn't automatically mean that I'm hella unhealthy and like at risk of all these things. Maybe not. So one of the reasons why I'm bringing them up is because they like to kind of put out there that as long as you're healthy, your size doesn't really matter. But what about people that have chronic illnesses, that their health is always going to be an issue for them? Where do they fit into this conversation? So this is something that I did not see of like, how can someone that, for example, has a medical condition that affects their day-to-day life, that prevents them from being able to be mobile in the ways that they want to be, prevents them from being able to socialize, from being able to work, from being able to date, how do they do body positivity? So for example, I saw this like really great blogger named Jennifer Richards. I may butcher the actual condition she has. Pronunciation, not my strong suit sometimes. I'm going to try. I believe it's Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Possibly screwed that up. If I did, sorry. I will work on that. So she had a really great quote. So generally in body positivity, they say it's all about creating a healthy, positive relationship with your own body. So her quote was, which I found interesting, the only problem is if I told anyone about the way my body treats me, they would tell me it's a relationship I need to get the hell out of. Because she deals with constant pain, constant issues. So how, like, it's really difficult to tell people you need to just love your body and what it does for you and how it takes care of you, when sometimes our bodies don't. So for those people, it can change a little bit there.
Absolutely. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Eric.
Nope. Go ahead, Mandisa.
Oh no, I can relate to this because my husband, who has sickle cell anemia, and who was born with this illness in which pain pretty much is a part of his life. And for people like that who have to suffer with chronic pain, and also other issues other chronic issues that affect their body, and just these platitudes of, you can get through it, you can get past it, allowing, preventing people from owning how they feel and expressing that, can also contribute to negative body imagery. If you're just, if you're just encouraging people to just stay positive, but it's hard to do that when you're in pain. It is very difficult. Of course, everyone needs to be able to manage it well. And part of that management means being honest about what hurts. And it dehumanizes people when they are not allowed to express that. And that can cause so many other issues.
It seems like we as humans just want the world to be black and white, like simple, stupid solutions. But there's so much nuance in between different people. I'm not like you, you're not like Amaia, and there's a wide variety of different people. And I had never ever considered that somebody's body could be their enemy, and their brain is fighting against the body, and just got to be exhausting. And telling them, oh, just be positive, that is, like what you just said, Mandisa, pretty demeaning. And wow, I just thank you so much for both of you saying that. This is pretty eye-opening for me.
Well, that's what we're hoping to do, is to kind of bring to light all these issues that, for the most part, people just don't think about or don't hear about.
Yeah.
But it's daily, it's constant. And for this group of people, a big thing that I often kind of see, and it's just not very helpful, is telling people that they're brave for existing in their bodies. For some people, sure, I guess it can be kind of, I'm trying to find the word how that might feel. It might be kind of nice to have some empathy.
It could be affirming as well, right? To an extent, right?
To an extent. But oftentimes it's not very helpful. I'm just existing in my body. What's brave about that? And there are a lot of motivational speakers that talk about this, and they really try to tell people, can we not do that? I'm just a human like everybody else. You don't need to see me as this epic inspirational figure. I'm just trying my best to exist like everybody else. So for some valuable questions to kind of maybe ask, if this is something that you struggle with, okay, how can I celebrate having a body that experiences chronic pain? So maybe your way of celebrating having a body may look a little bit differently from everybody else's. Maybe the definition of having a good body or healthy body may benefit from also getting expanded a little bit. Oftentimes we have very rigid definitions, and that's where we get ourselves into a little bit of trouble, because anything that doesn't fit within the lovely little box is automatically crap. So maybe we might want to adjust. What would it mean for me to have a good body? What would that look like? For some people, they focus on particular body parts. So what would it look like maybe to really love some parts of my body and maybe not love these particular parts all that much? And is that something doable? What would that feel like? What would that look like? And for some people, what they come to is what's called a truce with their body. So instead of body positivity, they do more of body neutrality, or just kind of calling a truce, being like, you know what? You're not my favorite sometimes, and I'm not your favorite sometimes, and that's okay. So how can we kind of come to some middle ground here where I can appreciate you for what you do, appreciate how you take care of me in certain moments, even though sometimes maybe it's not so great and maybe not the way I'd like it to, and how we can kind of just get along for the rest of my time on this planet. So it's a process.
one of the things I remember when I was kind of like growing up and going through puberty, I think, is like, for whatever reason, I really loved my shoulder. Like, I liked looking at it like nothing else I really liked looking at, but my shoulder was, or both of them were just like awesome. And then my body decided to start to sprout hair, like one of those damn chia pets. And my shoulder and I just, we haven't seen eye to eye since then. So I'm really glad that you kind of said that, because I thought I was just weird. I've never told anybody like, oh my God, I love my shoulder back in the day and now I don't like it. But that's pretty cool.
I random TMI. When I started puberty, I started growing hair all over, and for some reason I was like 10. So I didn't really know all the loveliness that is involved with puberty, and I assumed I was just a werewolf. That was my logical conclusion, like, because no woman is that hairy. Like, I just had my concept of what it meant to be feminine meant not hairy. Like, I never saw hairy women anywhere on TV at that age, and still today you don't really see hairy women. Like, they have a couple of commercials now that are trying to be like, yes, women have hair, it's a thing. It's
I have a friend who he until the age of, I think he was 15 or 16 or something, believed that women didn't have like body hair, and he has a sister, which I was also always so like amazed by, but and amazed in obviously the bad way. But yeah, it's just incredible how, because in the media women are always shown as these hairless, featherless, beings. That is like, if you have one string of hair, then it's like, oh my God, no way.
The amount of time and energy.
Well, it's interesting because I hope I'm not getting too off subject or a little graphic, but I mean, if you look at 1970s adult films or porn, there's plenty of body hair. And it's very interesting to see that. It's like, wow, that was a pretty, even though the body types were still very, cast or very Eurocentric in nature. But I tell you that, oh goodness gracious, there was a lot of hair in the head, hair on the, on the genitals and everything. And just similar to Praia, that I started growing body hair early as well, even before puberty. So my arms were always pretty hairy, and my legs got hairy as well. And so now there are certain parts of my body that I do like to shave the hair off of, but my arms, forget about it. That's just one thing. That's just one place where the hair is going to stay, and it just doesn't matter. I'm like, you know what? They're going to be there forever. It's okay. I'm going to have to be okay with that.
It's okay. That's all right. What are some strategies? What can we do? What might it look like? All this good stuff. So the first thing I'm going to read off is the quote from a book called Embody. It's on the resource list at the end that we're going to post of potential books that maybe you might want to read. I looked up a crap load of resources. I'm going to just toss them all over the place in a minute at some point, probably. Okay, so the book is called Embody. So here's a lovely quote from that. Delight in all the things your body can do and take pleasure in using it whenever possible. Use pain and discomfort as signals that adjustments may be needed, and take action to make the changes that are within your power. Thank your body when it is working well, and give it love and forgiveness when it is not. I really liked that quote. Because there may be moments where our bodies just are not going to do what we want them to do. And that is just part of being a human, part of having a body, is that sometimes it's just going to do its own thing without permission from us. Like, what the fuck? And, we can choose to drive ourselves nuts about it and be like, this is not what's supposed to happen. This is not what I'm supposed to look like. Or we can just accept that that is part of having a body, and changes are inevitable. It's just going to happen. So, you
know what this kind of sounds to me? It's sounds like having a relationship with an entirely different person. Like, it's a relationship. That's kind of how you're describing it.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
And relationships take work. Relationships take work. It is not perfect. There is no one size fit all solution to it. And I think that that's one of the things that people need to understand about this is that there is no one, there's not going to be one road to a solution. And like Praia said, if you ever get to that, I guess that utopian or that, that nirvana, if you will, it's possible that individuals may never get there, and that needs to be okay.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, you've been talking so much about like around the word, there's the whole concept of relationship. This is fantastic. Never ever considered that before. And just have to work on it, just like I would with marriage or with friends or, wow. Okay. And just accepting each other for who they are. Okay.
Well, if you look at it that way, it's like the only relationship that's with us from birth to death, like it would probably be a good idea to have a good relationship with our bodies. It would probably be pretty nice. Okay. Tips. All right. So step 1. Well, not even step 1. There's no like steps to this thing, honestly. But we'll just call it step 1. Okay. So first off, figure out what are the messages that you're telling yourself and where are they coming from. So that's an exercise that everyone would benefit from. When you find yourself on Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is that you use, if you're watching a movie and someone comes across the screen and your instant reaction is guilt or shame or comparisons or being like, oh, I wish I had that. If only I had this, I would be so happy if I looked like this. Really take a minute and stop and really reflect, wow, I really said that to myself. Where did that message come from? And instead of beating ourselves up about it, because it's really not very helpful to beat yourself up for having a reaction that for the most part is like an automatic one, because for a lot of us it's pretty automatic. It happens like 0.2 seconds. It's like blam. So instead of making yourself feel guilty for having the thought, just be like, okay, I had that thought, not a great thought. Where did it come from? Can I adjust that to something that's a little bit more realistic? Where did I hear that thought? Sometimes you can really pinpoint voices that told you certain things at some point. You're like, oh, no. And then you can kind of do the work of unpacking, okay, so what am I telling myself? And maybe I can use some of this in a positive way, but sometimes you honestly just got to throw the whole damn thought away and start from scratch and start creating your own vision of what it means to have a good body or a healthy body or a beautiful body or whatever adjective you want to throw around for that case. We really want to heal the relationship you have with your body. Because again, it is a relationship. It's like its own entity. It's like, so it would be really good to be kind to ourselves and allow ourselves to maybe have our bad moments of like beating ourselves up, because it happens, especially if we're trying to work towards a particular goal and we're kind of not reaching that goal, and we love to tell ourselves, oh, I should have done this and I should have done that, and if I were more this, then I would do. And it's, it happens. So instead of going through all of that, just give yourself that little space of being like, I'm allowed to be imperfect. There's nothing wrong with being imperfect. And honestly, being perfect is completely unrealistic. Let's be real. So remind yourself that you have value, and that value has nothing to do with your appearance. Your value is dependent on many other things, not the way you look. Instead of making your body how you determine your self-worth, focus on other parts of your identity. We are very complex. We're very complex people. So like, yeah, our bodies may be one way that we're like, I am pretty, I am handsome, I'm this makes me feel good. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. Did you knock yourself out? But what else do you have to offer? You have so much more to offer to this world other than a cute face. If you have a cute face too, awesome, good for you, love it for you. But you have much more to offer as well. Challenge the meanings So a lot of my work is about meanings that we attach to things, because humans love attaching meanings to everything. So challenge the meanings that you attach to certain physical attributes. So if you tell yourself that, I don't know, let's say, we'll use the hair thing. So whatever, let's say I'm a hairy woman. What does that mean for me? It means that I'm not feminine and no one will love me, because who wants a hairy woman? Da, 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 da. Let's say that's my internal conversation, and I'm going to drive myself nuts thinking that, because what am I going to do? Just laser off every damn hair on my body? Maybe. It's hella expensive and kind of hurts. Not fun. Or I can challenge those meanings. Like, does that really mean that? Like, what evidence do I have to support the idea that nobody likes someone with a little bit of arm hair? Like, evidence shows that some people really like arm hair or don't give a crap about arm hair in the slightest. So maybe the meaning I'm attaching is not entirely accurate. So I like the idea of appreciating and celebrating parts of your body that you're like into, and then slowly, and maybe really slowly, working towards doing similar with other parts of your body. So me, for example, I'm a fan of my legs. I like thick legs. So whenever possible, I like to wear my little mini skirt or like my little short shorts. I think it looks cute. I am not a big fan of my belly. So last year was an interesting year, to say the least. So I didn't really get many chances to practice this, but I bought a bunch of cutoff shirts, and I made it my mission to wear a cutoff shirt, not like every day, but like I would sprinkle it into my wardrobe, and I would really challenge the idea that if I wear a cutoff shirt, people are going to judge me, and people are going to look at me, and people are going to think I look gross. Because honestly speaking, nobody cares. Like, for the most part, nobody cares. And people that do care, I choose not to care about. Like, that's just, like, I just, like, if they really are going to get really bothered about my belly button or like my little roll or something, they're not someone I really need to give a shit about. That's my policy. And it works pretty okay, at least for me. Your version of that may look a little different, but I like the idea of like really celebrating parts of our body that, we already like, and then doing the same for parts that are like so, work in progress. And if it's difficult, we start small, do it at home, do it in front of the mirror. Just do like a little, ooh, 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 and look in front of the mirror and be like, okay, I can do this. And maybe if going outside is a little bit intimidating, all right, then don't go outside just yet. Do it there. Maybe if you have a group of friends that are really supportive, send each other photos. Like, just like, I'm looking cute today, and just send your friends some photos and be like, yes, and do like a little group thing. Something nice that will be affirming for you in whatever way works best for you.
Like building up a community of support.
Yes, that's what I was actually going to say as well, is that while it is important for you to come to terms with your own body, having support really does help. And sometimes even accountability partners is a good thing as well, because sometimes in that self-doubt, it may be good to have others around you who have a different perspective that you might not have thought of before, and those who are uplifting and affirming and encouraging more than anything else. It is important, to have, a network of people who will support you. And also, if you're, it is good to seek mental health. Talk to a mental health professional if you can, especially if if your condition or if your issues are truly severe. It isn't shameful to seek mental health and to talk to a therapist and to talk to someone, a licensed professional. That is important as well. And also, if you can do the things to improve your health, do that. Of course, it's always a good idea to eat healthier, to do to be a bit more active and to exercise more. This is an area that I started working on within the past year. I started going back to the gym more often because I am diabetic, and I had to get my blood sugar under control, and I had to make some changes. And so I really had to focus on that. And so, and that looks different for everyone. And just because someone is in the gym 5, 6, 7 days a week doesn't mean you have to. And you take the exercise, you do it at your pace and what is enjoyable for you. All of those things, it really is about affirming yourself and making sure that you are a better you, at the end of the day, whatever that looks like for you.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Yeah. If I'm kind of like in my own head and I look around like, oh my God, I can't trust anybody to talk to. What do you suggest that I could do to maybe start to build this community? Because I know that the community I was given, or I just kind of find myself in, may not be very supportive at all. And what do you think I could do to maybe start building that?
So you're saying that this would be for someone that maybe has like no supportive friends either?
Well, I mean, how would I kind of initiate this conversation? Like, look, I don't like my belly that much. Can maybe I send you some pictures? Say yes, boy, or something like that.
Okay, so definitely you're gonna want to kind of evaluate your friend group for who may be a good fit to have these conversations with. I don't know if I would start off the conversation with, I'm not a big fan of my belly, how about you, kind of a thing. But you can kind of like throw out some like feelers and just be like, I've been like really having some like struggles when it comes to like my weight, or with how I look at myself or how I feel when I look at myself in the mirror, and see if they can kind of like engage in that conversation with you. Not everyone is going to be willing to have these conversations, let's be real. So it may take a little bit of work and time to find those people. I'm pretty sure there are support groups out there for that particular reason, because yeah, it might be difficult in your particular friend group or family or community to find that. So sometimes online, and kind of, a little weird pro of the last year or so is that online communities have really gone full force. So it might actually be pretty feasible to find a group that is local that you can talk to. But preferably, I don't know, like some people have a preference, they'd rather have these talks with strangers versus like friends or family. Other people prefer to be friends or family just because they're closer. It's kind of up to the individual what they would prefer.
What about in work environments? Because I know I am 25, I haven't been working for that long, but in every single workplace that I've been, the go-to conversation was, what diet are you doing? Or how many calories does this meal have? Or, oh my God, you're so amazing, you're eating a salad. I'm so bad, I'm eating something that's not celery, Do you have any tips on how to deal with that?
So first off, a group that we did not address because it is a gigantic topic and honestly probably needs its own talk with like more qualified people would be body positivity for people that are in recovery from eating disorders. So that by itself is a big topic that's not really addressed. So for me, this is me, I'm not a big fan of these like work, like weight loss goal team things all that much, unless it's something that's like not pressured or like pushed onto people, because oftentimes like the environments, they can get really kind of like, no, but everybody needs to participate. If you don't participate, oh my God, and they do this whole thing about it and you feel guilty for not participating. But that can be actually really triggering for some people. Like not everyone is comfortable measuring their weight. Not everybody's comfortable getting on a scale every day. Not everyone is comfortable with tracking their calories because sometimes it can become disordered eating habits. So we have to be a little bit mindful. Like, I wouldn't mind if they kind of like posted it maybe somewhere like, hey, if you're down, we can do this like group or something. If you're not down, totally okay. But definitely we want to avoid talk in like the work area of like what's good food and bad food. Food is food. Because again, that also can really lead to a lot of disordered eating habits. And we don't want to get into all that because I don't know about you, I love eating. And I have just made it my personal thing to never make myself feel guilty for something that I enjoy so much. That's just me. I don't know.
Absolutely. Same here. You know, I love food. I love to eat. And it's a matter of balance with all of this. And, you know, there is just not, there shouldn't be, especially for people who are dealing with disorders and emotional trauma from their body imagery, you know, forcing that, even for those who might be in what is that quote unquote, standard, physical shape, it's important to remember that even people like that are still they could be suffering from negative body imagery as well. And so, there are a lot of things to consider there. And yes, not to get too far off what you were saying prior, but yes, everything that we enjoy, you don't have to deny yourself. I think denying yourself is one of the worst ways to fall back into a trap of trying to, it's the worst thing you can do if you're trying to improve on yourself.
Mm-hmm. So moderation is the name of the game for many of us. Like, if you really enjoy eating that particular food item, okay, enjoy the particular food item. Maybe look at the portion size, maybe look at how often you're having it. I don't know. But at the end of the day, there's no reason to make ourselves feel guilty for enjoying something that we really enjoy. Like, it just doesn't, like, it's and usually people that go on these super restrictive diets, it doesn't last very long. And then the cycle continues of like, oh, I'm such a terrible person because I wasn't able to stick to my diet and da 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 da. I hate diets. I can't do a diet. Like, I'm okay with portioning and like maybe not doing a ginormous bowl of whatever I'm eating in smaller bowls. Okay, we're good. We're happy. This is yummy. Mm-hmm. But like, just because someone is at what we would consider an ideal size does not mean that they're not having the same internal struggles as someone who is maybe a bit heavier. So that is often something that's kind of put out there. Again, the body positive movement is really exclusionary. So like, I've even seen posts talking about if you're thin, you don't belong in the body positive movement. It's weird. It's a weird place. So just be mindful of like what messages you're receiving and really evaluate whether or not those messages are harmful or helpful. Because like, there's a lot of stuff out there that's not great. So if you are going to be on social media, be mindful of who you follow. Follow diverse people. Follow people that look like you. Follow people that are not out there talking about, I'm taking this laxative tea and I feel great and doing this, because really they're not. That stuff is really, really harmful. And it's just like, so I've made it like, I think I follow one exercise person on Instagram. And the only reason I follow her is because she gives good science stuff. And I like the science stuff. Science stuff is cool. Other than that, I just avoid anything that if I look at it, I'm comparing, and I'm immediately, once I'm comparing, I'm like, I am not good enough. I look like crap. Well, no, I look different, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with looking different. It's a process, like we said. So for some people, this is a lifelong process. There is no set time frame on this. There's no finish line. Yay, you made it. You're body positive. Woo. And everyone throws you a parade. It's going to look different for everyone. Some of us may not get there. And that's okay. It's figuring out what works best for you. So if for you, you want to work on being your lovely curvy self, but healthier, okay, do that for you. That's awesome. That's great. Be happy, be curvy. It's all awesome. Do what makes you happy. If for you, you want to be a little thinner because that's more aligned with how you liked seeing yourself. Like for some of us, we see our pictures and we're like, oh, that is when I was like my sexiest, most confident, that I was like, okay, do that for you. That's awesome. But we really want to evaluate, like, at what point do we kind of do that also internal work? Because we don't want to just avoid the internal work, because the internal work is also really important, which is why sometimes in some cases, talking to a professional is really helpful. Self-care, focus more on your health rather than your size. So if you're going to diet and eat nice and healthy, do it because it's yummy and it's healthy, not because it's going to make me lose whatever 50 pounds that I think I need to lose in order to be pretty. So just looking at your motivations a little bit closer as to why it is that you feel you have to do these things. And again, maybe body neutrality is a better fit for you. And that will be something that you might want to really talk about with someone that's an expert. There are some therapists that specialize in body image issues, in eating disorder type of issues, and they might be a good fit for you. Sometimes support groups are a better fit. It really depends on the person. And last but not least, let's have more people that are diverse in these conversations. So today was a cool start. Love to see it. Hopefully in the future, we'll see more men leading these conversations, or more trans people leading these conversations, or people from any, like, we want more different people than the usual people that we see having these conversations all the time. And not to say that what they have to say isn't good. It's probably good info, valuable info, but it's different depending on your identity. So the information they have may be based on the lens that they're looking through, whereas we have this lovely variety of a million other types of lenses that also have really valuable information to share as well.
Wonderful. Mandisa, do you have anything else you wanted to add to that, or wrap up with?
I cannot emphasize the importance of utilizing your communities, especially if you are grappling with these issues and you were raised in a fundamentally religious household, which can have a huge impact on not just your mental health, your physical health, but also how you see yourself, how you see others. Oftentimes, you know, when you were saying that not to follow all of, be careful about following all of these like exercise gurus, there are a lot of people who feel like if they either look to be influenced or they want to be influencers, and that can be a very, very dangerous thing for people. And so you definitely want to be careful about that. But again, I just cannot reiterate what has been said here enough. Do incorporate. There's a lot of things to incorporate, and it may feel like a lot. It may feel heavy even just hearing this right now, but take it step by step. It is possible, and just realize that there may not necessarily be an end goal. This is ongoing.
Perfect.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much, guys. That was such an inclusive and very, very interesting discussion and conversation. So thank you so much for being here with us today. If it's okay with everyone, we can jump to the Q&A. The first question that we have is, how does the male gaze affect a woman's body positivity?
As someone who, I was talking about how I developed my breasts earlier in life. I started developing when I was 10. And so, it was interesting to hear, and someone said in the comments earlier about how some of us were almost defined like by our physical attributes. And a funny story, I remember when I was in camp when I was younger, and I would see other girls who were developed. And I thought, oh man, I wish I had boobs like them, until I started growing them. And so, you know, what happens is it can be very, very uncomfortable to only be judged by your breast size or your rear end. And you know, and ultimately, I mean, I love my boobs, not because men and sometimes women will look at them, but it's because I like them. And, you know, what's important is, you know, unfortunately, because we are still in a male-dominated society, there's just no getting around that, right? And those standards of beauty are often determined by what men think. And I think it is important for us to there were times where I used to just laugh it off, because sometimes I would poke fun at myself too, but it's good for people to say, okay, you know, drawing boundaries is very important here too. You know, there are times where it may be a joke or two, or maybe a little, a bit of a bit of a funny is okay, a bit of a gaffe, but when it gets to be too much, it's like, okay, yeah, you need to stop. You know, and more women and girls need to be comfortable with saying, okay, enough is enough, that I don't have to tolerate that from you simply because of it. And, you know, there's definitely a lot to say about people being empowered, about being able to express or flaunt their bodies without either being judged, without being grabbed or groped, or anything like that. So there's a whole lot to, you know, to say to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much. We could perhaps do like a full-on, completely separate session on that, because I feel like it's such a broad topic. So excellent question. Thank you. Eric, you want to take the next one?
Sure. In one of the poll questions, the last one was a question about how religion and body image kind of go together. Do you have anything to say about that? Any statistics or thoughts about how religion would affect one's body image?
Statistics questions. Oh my, you're killing me with the statistics. Next time I come
maybe not statistics.
Every freaking statistic I can find next time. Note to self.
Right. Someone on there's a certain founder of an organization that wrote a book called Sex and God, and how religion distorts sexuality. So I'm pretty sure that there's some really good information about that in there.
Perfect. I think that we might add that to the resources, Mandisa.
But in general, so my specialty is sex and gender and alternative relationships. So I have seen, in general, like body image issues can also affect sexuality. So, for example, some people will refuse to take off certain items of clothing when they're being intimate with their partners for fear of what are they going to think about what I look like, and what might they say. Some people, they basically can't really be present in the moment because they're so focused on those concerns. So for a lot of people with body image issues, that's one of the questions that I ask of, like, does this ever impact your ability to be intimate by yourself? Because sometimes it's a solo activity, or with a partner or partners. And a lot of them say, yeah, like I just can't let myself enjoy the moment because I'm just so freaked out about what I look like or what I sound like or what might be happening with my body. So that's another area where I encourage anyone to talk to a professional about it. It's very common, but since it's not discussed, people assume that it's just like a them thing, that this is not something that other people suffer with, that it's just them and they need to just figure it out. When in reality, no, this is incredibly common. Men have a lot of body image issues related to their genitals. Like, statistically speaking, this little thing, was it 70% of men believe that their genitals are smaller than average? Like, how is that possible that such a gigantic population of people all assume that they are quote unquote small, like whatever the hell that even means. Who knows what that even means? So like, it's just, body image is something that can affect all kinds of areas. It's not just in, oh, I don't feel nice in this outfit that I'm wearing. It's something that is just, that's why we're having this talk, because it is something that affects so many people.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Thank you. And then someone else is asking, how can I stop thinking that people are just being nice but don't really mean it when they say I look good?
Okay. The work I do challenges a lot of beliefs. So the type of therapy that I like to do is called REBT. So I would really challenge, okay, so what evidence do you have that suggests that they're just being nice? Usually people don't have solid evidence. I'm like, give me something that like someone has literally told you from their mouth, not something that you interpreted, not something that you felt, not something that you're like, I think that's what they're trying to do. Something that they've literally told you. More often than not, they look at me like, well, no one's ever said that to me. It's just a feeling that I have. Like, oh. And are all feelings true? Is it possible that this feeling is not true? And they usually go, well, maybe. Okay, so what if it's not true? What then? And usually where the conversation leads is that, well, if it's not true, then that means that maybe I can accept that people just think I'm kind of attractive. Okay, that's an interesting place to be. What does that mean for you? So yeah, it's a process, and many people do have that type of thinking where like, well, how would I really know? Like, well, by asking. Sometimes
Here, I am someone who goes through that. It is hard for me to accept a compliment. It is hard for me to actually, if I feel like someone is complimenting me, I start getting suspicious. I'm like, what do you want? Or it's like, there must be something, there must be something that they're trying to get from me. And yeah, there must be. So yeah, I start getting real suspicious. And I'm not saying this simply because, I'm a New Yorker, it's like sometimes, how we get when we're from up north in New York, and sometimes we become very suspicious of anybody coming up to us. But that is a thing that I do struggle with. And I try to tell myself, that it isn't as bad as I think it is. And that perhaps people really do. I have to learn how to trust the people who are telling me this. That is a huge thing. Trust is a major factor in overcoming these issues, trusting yourself and trusting others who have demonstrated that, they are sincere and authentic with their words and their actions.
Yeah, and what would be the worst that happens if you actually took them at their word? Like, oh, okay, well, thanks. All right, we'll see you later, I guess. I don't know. We've got time for just one last question. This has been an amazing talk, and rightfully, there's a lot to unpack and talk about. Oh, so we've got time for just one last question. We had a question in the chat here by an elderly gentleman asking about, like, I've got a 70-year-old body, but my mind is like 40 years old. What kind of thoughts do you have about body positivity or negativity when it comes to aging?
Well, it depends on what that person is concerned about. Like, for some people,
they still like, I think my body is still 40 years old, but really it's 70 and I can't do some of the things that I want to do. And perhaps it's leading to a little bit of depression.
Okay. So probably some of the work would be really identifying what are those activities that they would really like to be engaging in. Like, again, my area, I'd wonder are they talking about sex stuff? Are they talking about like, I want to go for a run. I want to go on a bike ride. I want to be able to go like bungee jumping. Like, what are they talking about in particular, to see, is it really that they're not possible anymore? Or is it something that they're telling themselves? And if they're not possible, okay, what can we do about that? Are there any other activities that you can do instead that may give you a similar kind of sensation or a similar kind of experience? And if none of that is possible, then we work in the acceptance category of just being like, look, we age, and as we age, sometimes we can't do all the things that maybe we used to be able to. Sometimes part of the process is a bit of a mourning process and a bit of a grieving process of what I used to be able to do. And we work through that and just be like, okay, like I used to be able to dance all night till 4 a.m. and be able to get up for work the next day without a care in the world. And now it's like, I stay up till 12 and I'm like a zombie for 3 days or something. So yeah, things change with time. It doesn't have to always be a catastrophic change unless that's how we're kind of framing it in our minds. So it's a bit of a challenge. I'm not going to lie. It takes a lot of work of really analyzing, like, what are the messages that we're telling ourselves and whether or not those messages are helping or harming. So for that person, life is not over at 70. I think, we have seen that more and more as people age. Like, I don't know about you, I can't wait till I have gray hair. I'm telling you, it's like on my bucket list to have a flowing gray, like curly poof. I think it's gorgeous. For many people, though, aging is scary. And, there is a fear of like decay that happens. It's a thing. It's a reality.
Mm-hmm.
We don't like talking or thinking about these things, but it is a reality. So yeah, it's a process. Acceptance is a big part of it. And if not, what can we do to kind of keep you feeling happy and satisfied in your age? And props to you for making it to 70. Shit.
The next haircut I get, I'll go ahead and send some of it to you.
Yes.
I am not accepting my gray hair right now. I will be
look like
blonde for a
Storm.
very long time.
I want to be Storm. That is my goal.
Oh God, there is that new hairstyle I'm seeing on a lot of some older women where it's like this silver platinum or something. It's just so gorgeous.
Yeah,
like, oh my gosh.
I am one of those people. I'm like, I absolutely commend you for it.
Mm-hmm.
Me though, I will be doing the blonde for a while. It is about variety as well. It's amazing.
The blonde does look great on you, so yeah, keep it up. It's
Thank
amazing.
you.
All right, well, I feel like that's a perfect way of finishing such positive message. As I said, thank you so much for Mandisa and Praia for giving this amazing presentation discussion. Thank you so much, Eric, for co-hosting with me. If you will come back next week, we are going to talk about substance abuse and a secular approach to addiction recovery. We're going to have Brian Fleming talking about it, and he has conducted a couple of meetings in RFR in this regard. So he's going to be, I'm sure, absolutely amazing. He's going to be a first-time speaker, but I feel like the topic has been so highly requested. So we're really, really excited to have that next week. So please do join us next Monday back again. Just a reminder that if you want to watch any of our previous RfRx sessions, you will find them in our YouTube channel. This one will also be uploaded to our YouTube channel. If you want to send us any emails or any feedback, any guest topics, anything at all, you can send us an email to rfrx@recoveryfromreligion.org. I would like to introduce all of you to the amazing, spectacular Dr. Ray, who is the director of RFR. So Dr. Ray, the floor is yours.
I have loved this conversation because I wish I had this conversation when I was 15. I wish I'd had it was 12, when I was 8. I think this is a conversation that religion fucks up, basically. And it never even happens in religion. But thanks everybody for being here tonight. But thanks Praia and Mandisa for doing this. The more I listened to this tonight, the more I thought, this is not a discussion just for us adults. This is a really important discussion to be having with teenagers as their bodies are developing. And it's just, I think in some ways it's especially important for boys, for male identified people, because I think men and boys perpetuate a lot of shit in our culture, and they don't do it intentionally, but I'll speak for myself. I know when I was a kid, the message I got about women's bodies were not positive in many ways. So anyway, great stuff tonight. Just mind-boggling in some ways. Questions that I really hadn't thought deeply about in some cases. Praia, I would like to underline one little thing, and that is REBT, my kind of thing, of course. I think I told you early on, Albert Ellis was one of my mentors, my main mentor, actually. But the one thing I didn't hear mentioned, and we don't need to, I'm not saying it should have been, was how the shoulds get in the way of people actually making rational decisions about their bodies and about their health care. I really don't give a shit what kind of body you are, what your BMI and all that is. What I care about is you're making rational decisions about your own health. And the reason and my motto is, this is the only body I'm going to get. I need to take the best care of it I possibly can. You may have been dealt a shitty hand. You may have had a body that has all sorts of problems. It's still the only body you're going to get. So try to make the best, most rational medical decisions about it. And when you got this shouldhood, I should do this, I should do that. We could go, Praia and I could probably talk another hour just about that alone. It really interferes with your abilities, because shoulds lead to, as what Albert Ellis said, shouldshood leads to shithood. And shithood is not a good way to make decisions about yourself. So thank you. As you know, we're all volunteers here. We don't get this done unless we have people willing to step up, and Mandisa and Praia have stepped up multiple times. And I just can't say thank you enough to all the different speakers that Amaia has found and gotten to come here. I'm going to tell you guys something. You may not realize this, but look at the quality of speakers you would get on a TEDx talk, for example, or look at the quality of speakers you would get if you went to a conference. We get these quality of speakers every fucking Monday night, and they're doing it voluntarily, and they're all experts in what they do, and they're all worth listening to. So it's just amazing to me. And I can't say thank you enough to Amaia for all you've done to make this all possible. And of course, Eric as well. So we're volunteers, but this thing needs money. So we'd love you to get in there and hit the donate button occasionally, or do a monthly donation to Covering for Religion, so we can continue to expand. We've got big plans to expand internationally in the next year or so. As we get over COVID, we're going to push that direction. And last but not least, we're having our birthday party on the 26th of June, 2009. I sat down in an IHOP and had 11 people sit down with me in a meeting like what Mandisa does or helps do in Atlanta, and talked about how religion screwed us up and what we've done, how we've benefited when we left. And that was the beginning of RFR. And we now have almost 300, I think Gail said 300 volunteers in 16 time zones and expanding. And we got hundreds and hundreds of people chatting in and calling to us every day. So all the support we can get, but our birthday party we're going to do is asking anybody that wants to, anybody who's been touched by RFR, do a 15 to 30 second, here's what RFR means to me, or here's why I volunteer for RFR, or here's something I learned from RfRx. We don't care. Just help us celebrate our birthday on the 26th. Send it in to the link that I think Eric put up earlier, and we'll be posted in social media. You can post it in social media, all that stuff. We're trying, obviously we want to celebrate our birthday, but more importantly, we're trying to generate interest and awareness of our services and all the things that our volunteers are doing and how we can help people in the real world. This is activism at its best. When Nate or Helen answers a chat, they're being as activist as the most radical atheist on the planet. It's just that simple. because they're actually doing something to help somebody. They're not criticizing God or telling people they're stupid and all that sort of stuff. They're doing fucking things that really make a difference. So we've got some amazing and wonderful volunteers that are just giving their heart and soul, and well, whether they got a soul or not, they're giving something, and we appreciate everything they do.